Yesterday, I had 3 different guests on this stage when I asked them where they were allocating capital in the precious metals sector in 2024. They said the royalty business. Now, there's a handful of reasons that investors might turn to the royalty business in a market like this. I want to turn it right over to you guys. Maybe Alex, I'll start with you. Yesterday, when I opened this show up, I asked the audience how many people were here for the first time, and it looked like about 35 to 40% of people raised their hands. So just for clarity's sake, would you mind introducing the royalty and streaming business for us this morning?
I'd love to. So a royalty and streaming company essentially is an investment company, and we invest into different mining projects and different commodities. A royalty is where we invest in a company and we receive a percentage of revenue from that company. And a stream is where we invest in a company, but we're able to receive gold or discounted at a deeply discounted price. Typically, that's about an 80% discount. So with a royalty and streaming company, and there's many different types of investment strategies in the space, you're really getting exposure to the commodities without the costs, say, of a mining company, and getting some great returns as a result.
So if you're concerned about inflating input costs like fuel, labor, transport, all of this stuff, the advantage of royalties is that you've locked in your price on the metal.
Exactly, and we're taking it at the top line, whether it's the royalty or the stream. We're directly taking that gold and silver, so we don't have the operational costs, we don't have to reinvest in the project. We still receive that consistent revenue. And typically, royalty companies are able to have very low overhead because you need very few people to operate these companies.
And so Alex is the CEO of Empress Royalty, and so you kind of function like we do as investors. You're out there looking for deals. You're looking for companies that need cash, right? Need some financing to move their projects forward. Yeah. And that's your opportunity to provide that capital, especially when capital is scarce from the market. Yeah. If bankers, brokers, and retail investors aren't as abundant as the companies might want them to be, it's good hunting territory for you.
It is. I mean, right now, especially with the market and where there has been the equity markets in the last year, they can't get the equity markets, but they want to expand production. We're able to directly invest into those mining companies, helping them move either the projects forward or, again, the expansion. There's also private companies that don't have access to the equity markets that want to develop their projects, and that we're seeing opportunity there. At Empress, we directly invest into the mining companies, and that's sort of our whole background, and our team's background is developing projects. But again, there's many types.
Okay, I want to get into what kind of targets you're looking for in a minute, but first over to you, EB. Since I've known you, you've been pretty bullish on the royalty and streaming model. Why is that? What pulled you in?
Well, I had a background, as you know, in equity analysis and fund management. Anyway, any of you out here, if you buy a stock like Newmont or VRIC or something, and you go into the filing, this is a huge company, go into the filing, you're going to see that they have these payments that they make to these companies. Some of them you've heard of, some of them you haven't. And I was always enamored with, why is this big company paying like $20 million a year to some company I never heard of before? Who is this company? And they don't help with the cost or anything. And I just had to get to the bottom of how this happens. And that's how I stumbled on the royalty business maybe 10 years ago. And the first story I ever heard was of Franco, the original Gold Strike royalty. And they paid $2 million for this thing. And the mining company found a monster gold mine. And so Franco's pulled $1 billion out of the ground off of a $2 million investment.
Quick break here, guys. Today's episode is brought to you by Copernico Metals. Now, regular viewers of my channel will be familiar with the entrepreneur behind Copernico. His name is Ivan Bebek. Now, although a young man in this business, Ivan's already created tremendous value for his shareholders in the past, namely with Caden Resources, which he sold to Agnico Eagle, and Keegan Resources, which became a mine now owned by Galiano Gold. Now, Ivan has surrounded himself with expertise from BHP, Newmont, and VRIC on his board at Copernico Metals. Check out copernicometals.com. Now back to the interview.
So, I mean, I just was head over heels for the royalty business, and this is going back many years. And a royalty, like Alex was saying, a royalty has to be 3 things. It has to be a perpetual, non-dilutable, free carried interest in a mineral asset. And what that means is that it doesn't matter how many shares the mining company issues, your claim stays on that asset. And that is very unique because, as we all know, you get into a tough market and sometimes the share printing machine runs as fast as the Fed's printing machine. It's unbelievable. And as an investor, we got to really stay on top of that. But as a royalty owner, I'm not going to say that you don't care, because obviously you don't want the company to struggle. But it doesn't really matter. And if the cost of oil goes up or the cost of labor or any of these things, you're not really that concerned about that. And so for me, this solved a lot of problems that I personally had with the mining business because I've been around for a long time and I struggled sometimes with what the companies would do in the downturn. And so that's really how I found the royalty business. Now, this is an interesting time because, as Alex will attest, you probably can talk about, there's been about 10 takeovers in the business and in the royalty business. And if you look around, what's happened is there's not a lot of smaller companies left. And I think that gives you an opportunity to say, all right, who's left at this musical chairs game, and who do I want to own? And then you get into looking at companies specifically, which is not really my thing anymore. But I've been around this business for a long time, and I think that it checks these boxes that were always issues for me with the operating mining companies, and the streaming business I don't have as much experience with. And it's really a finance business, it's about, like, you could put it in New York, in Midtown, and it could just operate as a kind of like a private equity business. It's very technical, it's very specific on the financing, and it's very lucrative. And I think that's different. But the royalty business has always been this near and dear thing to my heart because I wanted that free carried interest. That Franco story just, it got me years and years ago.